She got the promotion on a Tuesday. She had worked toward it for 3 years. Late nights, skipped holidays, a relationship that quietly fell apart somewhere between year 2 and year 3. She told herself it would all be worth it. And on that Tuesday, it finally was. She called her mother. Her mother cried. Her friends took her out. There were champagne glasses and congratulations and a new nameplate on a desk she'd dreamed about for years. And then she went home, and she sat on her couch, and she felt nothing. Not tired, not relieved, not even sad, really. Just empty. Like someone had removed the engine from a car that had been running at full speed for 3 years. She thought something was wrong with her. Nothing was wrong with her. She had just discovered one of the most poorly understood truths about human psychology, that achievement and fulfillment are not the same thing. And no one had ever told her that they could come apart so completely. If you've ever reached a goal and felt that strange, hollow feeling instead of the joy you expected, this video is for you. And if you haven't yet, stay anyway. Because understanding this now might be the most useful thing you ever learn about yourself. There's a word for what she experienced. Psychologists sometimes call it arrival fallacy, a term coined by Harvard lecturer Tal Ben-Shahar. It describes the illusion that once we arrive at a destination, we'll finally feel okay. Finally feel complete. Finally feel like enough. But the feeling doesn't come, or it comes for a moment and then disappears faster than you expected. And the question nobody asks, the one that actually matters, is why? Not how do I fix it, but why does this happen? Because the answer reveals something much deeper about the way we were taught to build a life. Today, we're going to look at 5 reasons why success can feel empty, not as a formula to fix, but as a map to understand yourself better. Before we get to reason number 1, I want to say something directly. If you're watching this and feeling this way right now, you are not broken. You are not ungrateful. You are not failing at happiness. You are experiencing something deeply human. And the fact that you're asking the question at all puts you ahead of most people. The first reason success feels empty is the simplest and the most painful. You achieved something that wasn't actually yours to begin with. We absorb other people's definitions of success so early and so quietly that by the time we're adults, we often can't tell the difference between what we want and what we were taught to want. A good salary, a prestigious title, a house in the right neighborhood, a degree from the right school. The philosopher Erich Fromm called this the difference between having and being. When we chase the markers of having, possessions, titles, recognition, without connecting them to being, who we actually are, what we actually value, we end up rich in achievement and poor in meaning. You can spend a decade climbing a ladder and only realize when you reach the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall. This isn't a failure of ambition. It's a failure of reflection. And reflection is something our culture is not very good at encouraging. We're much better at pushing forward than we are at stopping to ask, for what? Whose voice is in your head when you imagine success? Is it yours or someone else's from a very long time ago? The second reason is subtler, and it trips up even people who are pursuing their own goals. Success is a moment. Life is what happens in all the other moments. The problem is, we spend years imagining the destination, and almost no time imagining what daily life actually looks like once we get there. We picture the finish line, but not the Tuesday morning after. We imagine the achievement, but not the relationships, the routines, the sense of purpose we'll need once the goal is gone. Psychologists call this impact bias, our tendency to overestimate how much a future event will change how we feel in the long run. We think landing the role, the partner, the body, the salary will shift everything. But the research, including work by Daniel Gilbert at Harvard, consistently shows that we adapt far faster than we expect. The new normal becomes normal. The extraordinary becomes ordinary, and then we're left wondering why. This is not a pessimistic finding. It's a deeply useful one, because it tells us something important. The life is in the texture, not the trophy. Meaning isn't found at the destination. It's built into the daily practice of living in alignment with what matters to you. The person who climbs a mountain doesn't feel fulfilled because of the summit photo. They feel fulfilled because of who they became on the way up. The third reason is almost mechanical in its cruelty. It's called the hedonic treadmill, and it describes the way human beings return, almost inevitably, to a baseline level of happiness regardless of what happens to them. Win the lottery? Research shows most people return to their previous happiness level within 2 years. Get the promotion? Within months, the new salary feels like the old salary. Move into the bigger house? Within a year, it's just home. This isn't a personal failure. It's evolution. Your nervous system is built for adaptation, for scanning for new threats, new opportunities, new stimuli. Comfort and stability, by design, eventually fade into the background. The treadmill never stops. And the moment you step off one goal, you're already looking for the next one. Not because you're greedy, but because your brain is wired to keep moving. The ancient Stoics understood this. Seneca wrote, and I'm paraphrasing, that it is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who always craves more. The antidote isn't to stop wanting. It's to stop believing that the next thing will finally be the thing that makes it all complete. We're halfway through. If this is resonating, stay with me, because the last two reasons are the ones most people never see coming. The fourth reason is the one that lives in the body more than the mind. The path to conventional success often requires a very specific kind of self-betrayal. You override your tiredness. You silence your doubts. You push through discomfort. You make yourself smaller in rooms where you feel too big. You make yourself bigger in rooms where you feel too small. You perform and produce and deliver. And somewhere in the middle of all that performing, you lose the thread back to yourself. By the time you arrive, you've spent so many years managing yourself that you've almost forgotten what unmanaged feels like. You've learned to be productive, but not present. Efficient, but not alive to your own experience. The psychologist Carl Rogers talked about the distance between our ideal self, the version of us shaped by external expectations, and our actual self, who we genuinely are underneath all the performance. When those two versions of us get too far apart, we experience what he called incongruence, a kind of internal static. That static doesn't go away when you achieve the goal. If anything, in the quiet after the achievement, it gets louder. The success was real, but so is the distance you traveled from yourself to get there. And then there's the fifth reason, the one that's hardest to admit, and perhaps the most freeing to understand. Sometimes what we're chasing isn't actually the success. It's the identity that comes with it. We want to be a successful person, to see ourselves as someone who made it, to have others look at us and recognize that we are someone of worth, of substance, of achievement. And so we spend years, sometimes decades, working toward a self-image, a title, a label, a story we can tell about ourselves at dinner parties. But here's what Viktor Frankl understood. From his years surviving the Nazi concentration camps and from his decades of work as a psychiatrist, meaning cannot be constructed from the outside in. A story others tell about you is not the same as a life you've actually lived. When the goal is the identity, when becoming a successful person is the real aim, then arriving at the destination creates a strange paradox. You've completed the image, but the image was never alive to begin with. It can't hold you. It can't warm you. It can't answer the question your soul has been asking all along. Was this a life well lived? The arrival doesn't feel like completion. It feels like the end of a performance. And somewhere, very quietly, you have to ask, who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when there's nothing left to prove? Those might be the most important questions you ever ask. None of this is meant to make success feel pointless. It isn't. Achievement matters, goals matter, growth matters. But there's a difference between pursuing success as a way of building a life and pursuing success as a way of escaping yourself. One leaves you fuller than when you started. The other leaves you standing in a beautiful room, wondering why no one remembered to put a window in. The question isn't whether to be ambitious. The question is, ambitious toward what? Not what looks impressive, not what you were told to want, not what quiets the voice of someone who made you feel like you had to prove yourself a long time ago, but what actually feels like you, when you're honest and quiet and not performing for anyone. That's where the real work begins. Not after the success, not instead of it, but beneath it. And that work, the work of building a life that actually belongs to you, that might be the only success that never feels empty. If this video landed somewhere real for you, I'd love to know in the comments. Not just great video, but have you ever felt this? That hollow feeling after reaching something you worked hard for? What did it teach you? Those conversations are the reason I make these videos. And if you want to go deeper on this, I've been building a series called Lessons Nobody Taught You, the kind of psychological and philosophical ideas that should have been part of growing up, but weren't. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you there.